So in this video, I'm going to give you a 4-step process that is going to allow you to get into some lovely trades using the volume profile. So the good thing about this strategy is that you can use it on micro or macro trends, right? So whether you are a day trader or whether you're a swing trader, you'll be able to adapt this way of trading to your style. So we'll be looking at advanced breaks of structure, looking for our high probability order blocks, and using our volume profile to really pinpoint which order blocks are going to have a high probability of reaction due to the previous trading volume at that point. So this is looking at a smaller time frame trend, okay? So just for an example, right, if we're just looking at this example here, right, we got higher highs, higher lows, and then we break this level of structure, okay? And we start to put in a short-term bearish move. And note I say a short-term bearish move because if we zoom out, you can see that we've got lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower highs, and a break to the upside, okay? Giving us a bullish move, right? So the first thing we're going to look for in our 4-step process is we're going to want to identify a break of structure. So you can see that we've got higher highs, higher lows, higher highs, higher lows, and we've got a nice impulsive break of structure to the downside. Okay, so that's our first rule or the first thing that we're going to look for in our 4-step process. So after we've got our impulsive move down that breaks our level of structure, sweeping liquidity from that area, we want to identify where the potential institutional interest started, right? We're going to do this by identifying the last up candle before the down move. So by identifying the last up candle before the down move, that is going to identify a potential order block in which we could trade off of. So rule number 2, identify our order blocks and or supply and demand zones. Alright, so for our order blocks, the last up candle before the down move, and if you are interested in learning more about order blocks, obviously there's going to be a load more information inside of the platform once it releases. And of course, so much more that's going to go into that. So, alright, so once we've identified our order blocks, we're going to want to validate our supply and demand zones. And the way we're going to do that is we're going to use the volume profile. And we're going to use a fixed range and take it from the swing high to the swing low of our impulsive move. Alright, so now that we've done that, right, I don't know if you can see this very well, but we get the volume profile come up on our screen. Now, this is different to the regular volume because this is... the volume profile is volume by price. Okay, so it's showing you the volume at each price point, whereas the traditional volume used down here is volume by time. Okay, so we want to be using volume by price. And as you can see, we've got high volume in and around this price point. Okay, so that is going to validate our supply and demand zone. Because as you're going to see later on, sometimes we have 2 potential supply and demand zones, so an up candle and a down move, right? An up candle and a down move, and we're going to bring on our volume profile to validate the most high probability ones, okay, to keep us out of them losing trades or to give us the best possible or the best probability of our trades rolling over, right? So just to recap, we pull the volume profile from the swing high to the swing low of our impulsive move, and we can see that most of the volume traded in and around this price point. So that is going to validate our zone, right? Number 3, validate S&D zone using volume profile, right? So our last step in our 4-step process is to drop down the time frames and look inside of our valid S&D zone to really get them pinpoint entries, right? So for this, we're going to drop down to a 5-minute time frame and look inside of our area, which we've already got marked. So the first way that we can do it is we can actually just look for set a limit order at this zone. So that would be, you know, more of a 3-step process because you're not actually really looking for much confirmation inside of this zone, but you could just set a limit order short. Okay, stops above the high or wherever you see fit. Maybe you want to just put them a few pips above a rejection, right? And look to target the liquidity, the lows, right? So if we just jump back out to the hourly, right? Again, this is going to be on trader discretion, so you may want to target the lows here. Obviously, bear in mind this has been ran we've come back up, accumulated some long positions, took the market higher, right? Or you could drop down again, drop down to the 5 minute, and you could look for a more advanced Wyckoff entry, okay, into a trade, right? Now this isn't the cleanest schematic. Obviously, you know, no schematic is perfect, but as far as schematics go, this isn't the cleanest. But we could have a preliminary supply up there, an automatic rally, looking for an up thrust, right? Liquidating this trend line on the 1 minute, giving us an area of support, right? We then have a UTAD. We're starting to see a sign of weakness, right? And potentially moves to the downside, right? So you could have got involved on this spring, or, you know, our UTAD, right? Looking to short this market. But if we move out to the hourly and look at where we could potentially be targeting, okay, drop back down to the 5 minute, and of course partialing off at multiple areas along the way, right? So rule number 4, confirmation into trade, right? And again, whatever you want to use for that confirmation inside of our valid S&D zone. As you can see, lower lows and price action, okay? And this impulsive move here breaks this structure, right? So we're looking for long opportunities as we've had an impulsive move that breaks structure. So rule number 1, a break of structure. Number 2, identify our order blocks, right? That we have got a valid order block through here, right? Our last down candle before our up move. And we've also got a valid order block through here, right? We've also got a valid order block through there, okay? And we've also got valid order blocks through there, but these are the 3 obvious ones. Okay, so rule number 3 is validate our supply and demand zones using the volume profile, right? So what I'm actually going to do is I'm just going to change this to OB, right? Just to not confuse any of you, I'm referring to our order blocks or our supply and demand zones as the same thing, right? There are slight differences, but we don't need to know them for this video. Again, it's all going to be inside of the platform, right? Okay, so validate our supply and demand zone, right? We're going to do that by bringing on our volume profile, fixed range, take it from the swing high to the swing low of our impulsive move that breaks the structure. And as you can see, we've got the most trading volume at this price point, right? So we're going to get rid of that, get rid of that. This is going to be our valid supply and demand zone, right? Let's just roll this back, okay? Right, so now number 4, confirmation into trade. We're going to do that by dropping down to the 5 minute and looking for confirmations inside of our supply and demand zone, right? So as you can see, price comes down into our supply and demand zone. Again, you can set an order. So that's one way, or we could look for a separate order block inside of this, right? So a run on liquidity generation, a run on liquidity, a move up, a tap down into the order block, which is the same sort of entry as a Wyckoff entry, right? Again, it's all going to be inside of the trader development area. So again, that's one potential entry, right? Just straight orders, more of a 3-step process. Or again, you can look for liquidity generation, a run on that liquidity, and a tap down. Again, the zone hasn't really changed on this particular setup. We could probably jump down to a 1 minute to refine it a little bit further. Right, not going to be able to refine that much further. Jump back out. Whether or not we get that. And again, taking partials along the way, right? So we get a tap down into that order block through here, right? And again, you could probably get a more refined, or you can definitely get a more refined entry through here. Probably be looking at an aggressive entry if you didn't get involved in that. Looking for targets at our higher level, right? Through here, okay? You may have been taken out for a break even on that trade, depending on how you managed it. If you was following behind these outside returns, then obviously you would have been liquidated, right? But you can see the main premise of that strategy, okay? So I hope you got value from the video. If you did, be sure to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. And wherever you are on your trading journey, I hope you have a good week, and I'll see you on the next one.